So, you found me again. Some always do. It is time for chapter 61. He had never been on that street before. He was certain of that. And yet the moment he turned onto it, he knew it. Knew the house with the open door. Knew the particular quality of light falling across the threshold. Knew with absolute and wordless certainty that this place had been waiting for him, not for anyone who happened to pass, for him specifically. He stood on the pavement outside and felt the particular stillness of someone who has arrived somewhere they were always going to arrive, without ever knowing it. Then he stepped inside and found something he has never been able to adequately explain to anyone, including himself. A man was walking home from a friend's apartment on an unremarkable weekday evening, a route he had walked many times before. He was not distracted, not tired, simply walking. Somewhere near the midpoint of the journey he took a turn he did not intend to take. Not a dramatic wrong turn, simply a left where he usually went straight. He noticed it almost immediately, but the street he found himself on was pleasant enough. A narrow residential street, quiet, well-maintained. The kind of street that exists in older parts of the city without attracting particular attention. He decided to continue along it and find his way back to the main road from the other end. And then he saw the house, a small house set back slightly from the street, with its front door standing open. He slowed his pace, looked at the open door, and felt something he would spend the rest of his life trying to describe accurately, a recognition, complete and immediate and entirely without rational basis, the absolute certainty that he had been here before, that he knew this house, that the open door was open specifically for him, not in a threatening way, not in a way that suggested anything sinister, simply the way a door is open when someone is expected, when whoever lives behind it has seen you coming and left it open so you do not have to knock. He stood on the pavement outside the house and looked at the open door for a long time, and then he stepped inside. If these stories find their way to you, if you feel drawn back to this quiet room again and again, there is a place for you here. Others have found it. Perhaps you will tell them you did too. The house was empty. No furniture, no belongings, no evidence of current occupation. Just clean, empty rooms in a small, well-maintained house that smelled faintly of something he could not identify, something that reminded him of something. He walked through the rooms slowly, the ground floor, then up the stairs to the upper floor, each room empty, each room carrying the same quality of waiting that he had felt from the street outside. The feeling that this space had been arranged carefully, that each empty room had been prepared for this specific visit by something that had known he was coming and had made sure everything was ready. He stood at the window of the upper room and looked out at the quiet street below, and felt the particular stillness of someone who is exactly where they are supposed to be, without understanding why. He stayed in the house for perhaps 20 minutes. He did not feel frightened. He felt something more unusual than fright, a deep and wordless sense of familiarity with a place he had never been, a sense of having arrived somewhere he had been moving toward without knowing it. He left eventually, walked back down the stairs and out through the open door and along the quiet street to the main road. He found his way home without difficulty, and the following day he went back to find the street. He walked the route from his friend's apartment carefully, retracing every step. The street was not there. He walked every adjacent road, every possible alternative route. Nothing corresponded. The quiet street and the small house with the open door simply did not exist in the map of the city available to him. He told me this story carefully, in the particular way of someone who has gone over it many times in their own mind and wants to make sure the details are conveyed accurately. He said he had come back to that part of the city many times over the following years, walking different routes, taking different turns, always hoping to find the street again, always finding nothing. He said that what stayed with him most was not the impossibility of the house or the street. It was the feeling inside, that complete and wordless recognition, that certainty of having arrived somewhere he belonged. He had never felt it anywhere else before or since, and he spent a long time wondering what it meant, that the most familiar place he had ever stood in was a place that apparently did not exist. He told me he sometimes wondered about the other people who might have found that street, whether he was the only one it had ever appeared to, whether there were others who had turned down that narrow road on an unremarkable evening and felt that same impossible recognition at the sight of an open door in an unlit house, whether they too had stepped inside, whether they too had stood in those empty rooms and felt the weight of something that had been waiting for them specifically, for longer than they could account for, and whether all of them, like him, had spent the weeks and months afterward searching for a street that had already finished with them, and had quietly, carefully, folded itself away, until the next person it had been waiting for finally took the wrong turn. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. Most wrong turns lead nowhere interesting. A street you do not know, a detour that adds a few minutes to your journey, nothing more. But occasionally, on certain evenings, a wrong turn leads somewhere that has been waiting for you specifically, that has arranged itself in your path with the patient precision of something that has had a very long time to prepare. And if you find yourself on such a street, with an open door and that particular wordless certainty that you have been here before, go in if you wish. Walk the empty rooms, stand at the window, take your 20 minutes in the place that was arranged just for you. But remember, it will not be there when you try to return. It will have folded itself away and begun its patient preparation for the next person taking the next wrong turn on the next unremarkable evening. If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here, beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting, and if you wish others to find their way here too, I would not object.